The NFC North sent two teams to the playoffs in 2023 and even sent a team to the NFC Championship game. As if that wasn't enough, the other two teams in the division, the Bears and Vikings, each had two first-round picks, and Chicago specifically had two in the top 10. The Packers finished the 2023 season with a 9-8 record, which was a bit of a surprise because they were a very young team. And not only were they a very young team, but they were expected to rebuild for a year, or retool if you will, and go through a lot of adversity and trying times in Jordan Love's first year starting. And I guess you could say they did, as they started out 3-6 and were eventually 6-8 through 14 games before winning their final 3 and getting into the postseason as a 7 seed and absolutely dismantling the Cowboys in the wild card round of the playoffs. Between the Packers and Lions competing for not just the NFC North, but potentially competing for a trip to the Super Bowl, and with the Bears roster being significantly upgraded from 2023 to 2024, the NFC North is going to be an absolute bloodbath for years to come. In today's video, we will break down the roster construction of all four teams, and even project a bit into the future as to why this division is going to be so difficult to win, and why it will be very fun to watch over the next few years. Now let's begin. We are starting today's video by discussing the Green Bay Packers. As alluded to in the intro, 2023 was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and it would have been a successful year even if Green Bay lost in the wildcard round to not just Dallas, but whoever they would have traveled to in the first round of the playoffs. But it's impossible not to buy into their future with a good head coach in Matt LaFleur and a quarterback who just finished second in passing touchdowns with 32 in his first year starting. This was all done without a true number one receiver and really a wide receiver by committee at that. Their leading receiver was second-round rookie Jaden Reed, who finished the year with nearly 800 yards and 8 touchdowns, and their second leading receiver was 2022 fourth-rounder Romeo Doubs, who also had 8 touchdowns last year. What makes Green Bay so scary for 2024 and beyond isn't just having a quarterback who had a good year, and that for the sake of a narrative that he will be their guy for the next 12 plus years and be their third straight Hall of Fame quarterback. That obviously plays a part as to why Green Bay has a bright future, but what doesn't get mentioned, or at least as much as it should, is Green Bay's top 6 receivers in 2023 were all 24 years old or younger. They weren't washed up has-been guys that were running on E in the gas tank on a long road trip. These are all players that will be back for not just 2024, but 2025 too. They also brought in running back Josh Jacobs in free agency, who had over 2,000 yards back in 2022, and a guy who should thrive in the Packers offense. What was also beneficial for Green Bay with the Jacobs signing is if he has a down year and shows signs of his body breaking down, which we all know is common at the running back position, then they can cut him as a designated post-June 1st cut next year and only pay $3.125 million and save $8.2 million for 2025. He signed a 4-year, $48 million contract, and only 12 of it was guaranteed. Green Bay is protected if Jacobs doesn't play well, and not only that, but they also drafted USC running back Marshawn Lloyd in the 3rd round this year. This doesn't just apply to Green Bay, as it certainly applies to Chicago now, and especially Minnesota, but a big reason why Detroit selected corners with each of their first 2 picks in the 2024 draft, aside from the value being tremendous of course, was having to go against both good quarterback play and receiving play for the foreseeable future. That is one of the biggest signs of respect you can show in the NFL, is drafting a position to make it stronger because you know how good your division opponents are at one specific position. Whether it's Jaden Reed going against Terrion Arnold this year, or DJ Moore going against Carlton Davis, or Jordan Addison going against Ennis Rakestraw Jr., Detroit knows defending the division title against the green and yellow is not going to be an easy task. But Green Bay is set up for the long haul, not just 2024, and that's what needs to be remembered. And the Lions are too. And those two teams know when they meet in weeks 9 and 14 this year that it may not just be for the division title. It may be a preview of a playoff game in January. We may not see it this year, but I would be pretty surprised if Green Bay and Detroit don't meet at some point with the season on the line. The NFL offseason is here, and during this time of year, I'm doing a ton of research on next year's draft prospects, schemes, concepts, you name it. This is all while running the channel, of course, and despite it being the offseason, it is still very much full throttle. Which is why I'm excited to talk to you about today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Manta has a variety of masks from a pro sleep mask to a sound sleep mask, and they even have aroma dots, which are made for convenience with no prep and no mess, and help you relax and unwind. I'm personally a fan of the lavender scent. What's particularly nice about Manta is there's zero pressure on your eyes, and the Sound Sleep Mask, which is another product from Manta, is the most comfortable Bluetooth sleep mask in existence and has a 20-hour battery life. From the stress of running the channel and creating content in a timely manner, Manta has helped in a big way, and you can get 10% off on Manta using code ANALYSIS. So check out Manta using the link below and use code ANALYSIS to get 10% off your purchase today. And a big thank you to Manta for sponsoring today's video. Now, the Vikings are in a trickier situation than the Packers and especially the Lions, but they can compete with the NFC North teams in 2024. Beating them is another thing, but they will compete. I don't expect JJ McCarthy to have a CJ Stroud type rookie year, and even in the scenario Sam Darnold plays the first few weeks, I don't expect Sam to light the world on fire by any means, but what I will say is this. The Vikings played Detroit in Week 16 last year with Nick Mullins as their starter, and it came down to the final drive. Nick threw for over 400 yards in that game, and Justin Jefferson had over 140 yards receiving, and this was done with zero run game as Ty Chandler finished the game with 8 carries for 17 yards. Now, again, I don't expect Minnesota to walk into Detroit in Week 18 and beat the Lions this year, unless Detroit had nothing to play for and they were resting their starters. But if JJ McCarthy becomes a good quarterback in the NFL, then it's not an exaggeration to say this division could be the best in football for several years. Minnesota applies more for 2025 and beyond because JJ is a 21-year-old rookie quarterback who absolutely needs time to develop. Even if you are the most optimistic Vikings fan that thinks JJ will be a good player for a long time, it would be wild to think he's going to come in and throw 30 touchdowns and lead this team to 11 wins as a rookie. But they have all the pieces in place for the next several years, which certainly contributes to the title of today's video. But the Vikings finished 22nd in points per game in 2023, which can be attributed to a few things. The first, of course, is they committed 34 turnovers and finished 31st in that category last year. They also had a quarterback carousel, and as long as they don't have not just an injury bug, but an entire injury animal affect their season, I would be surprised if Minnesota doesn't improve in this category, even with Sam or JJ at quarterback. In turn, I also think the defensive points per game will either maintain or improve, and they already finished 13th last year, and a unit that, yes, lost Danielle Hunter in free agency, but added guys like Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Blake Cashman in free agency, along with the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year in the first round in Dallas Turner. At minimum, I think Minnesota can be a thorn in each of these teams' sides, and I would be surprised if they don't win at least 2 division games this year. Remember, for as bright as the other 3 teams in the division's futures are, they're not unbeatable. And they're certainly not unbeatable with a great coaching staff like Minnesota has. I certainly don't expect the Vikings to go 12-5 this year, but I do think they will be a tough team to beat no matter who they play. They have a lot of young talent, and 2024 will be a building block for how good their 2025 season should be. And from the Twin Cities, we go to the Motor City to discuss the Lions. We have went in depth about the Lions several times before on the channel, but if you look up textbook definition of how to rebuild an NFL team in today's era in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, you may find a picture of Brad Holmes. The Lions have done everything the right way, and they start their 2024 season off with 3 home games in the first 4. Their first 4 games are against the Rams, Bucks, at the Cardinals, and home against the Seahawks on Monday night before their Week 5 bye. We're not going to dive into scheduling too much before the team previews, but it's not an exaggeration to say Detroit could, and hell, should, start 4-0. Now, if you think me saying the Lions should start the year 4-0 sounds a bit crazy, well, Lions fans, welcome to the reality of increased expectations. Now, for Detroit, not just in 2024, but well beyond 2024, I cannot emphasize enough how much I love their future. Just in 2024, these are going to be players that are under the rookie contract. Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. All of those guys for at least 2024 and 2025 are going to be under their rookie contracts. Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra recently signed the long-term contract extensions, and they're in their final year of their rookie deal in 2024. So this team is going to be not just competitive, but very, very good for at least the next 2 years, and I don't think they're exactly going to just go away in 2026. The Lions are going to be the gold standard in terms of how to rebuild a football team from day one over the next 5 to 10 years, and in terms of how to have an actual 5-year plan. That was of course started by Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes back in January of 2021. The Lions are the team I worry least about moving forward, at least in the NFC North, for the next 2 or 3 years, and unless they have a 2029er season where seemingly everybody gets hurt, I would be shocked if Detroit doesn't go to the postseason in each of the next 2 years, maybe even 3 years. And recently, I know there was a decent amount of pushback from non-Lions fans about giving Jared Goff a $200+ million extension, and I know there were a lot of comments of, Jared Goff's never going to win you the big game, and Jared Goff's not a top whatever number quarterback. Most people say 10 or 8 or whatever the number. But the reality is this. It is a lot easier to get worse at the quarterback position than it is to get better. Sure, Jared Goff might not be Patrick Mahomes. Sure, he might not be Josh Allen. But Brad Holmes said that quote about being easier to get worse at the quarterback position recently, and I like that quote a lot, because the Lions could easily have drafted a quarterback over the past few years. They could have taken Malik Willis at number 2 overall back in 2022, and instead, they took Aiden Hutchinson. Now, also within that $212 million contract extension, the NFL's salary cap is going to go up steadily year by year by year through the gambling revenue, through the TV revenue, through the streaming revenue. So yeah, Jared Goff got $212 million, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Detroit is absolutely going to be fine in the long run, and they're ready to win a Super Bowl this year, and they are absolutely playing a huge part as to why the NFC North is going to be a bloodbath for the next few years. Now to the Windy City to discuss the future of the Bears, and it starts with Caleb Williams. If you're a Bears fan that's dealt with guys over the years like Mitch, Andy Dalton, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles, Justin Fields, and Tyson Bagent, then you are rightfully excited about Caleb Williams. Now, we discussed the Bears a lot in a most improved video that was released a few days ago, which I recommend checking out, but even on the defensive side of the ball, most of these guys are young. Despite being in the league since 2018, Tremaine Edmunds is just 26 years old, as for those who may not know, he was 19 when he was drafted and turned 20 in the first week of May. Montez Sweat is just 27 and will turn 28 in September, but he's a guy who can start for this team for the next several years. The thing to hang your hat on with the Bears entering 2024 is they allowed 20 points or more just once in the final 6 games of 2023. I know they went through a lot during the 23 season, like giving up 38 points to Green Bay in the opener, or that dreaded Tampa game the following week, or even being so bad that Travis Kelce confidently made sure his girlfriend was in attendance when they played the Bears, specifically because he knew they were going to kill them. But despite the 2-7 start, the end of the year went very well for Chicago last year. The only thing that concerns me with Chicago moving forward, that I think is an incredibly easy fix if worse comes to worse, is hiring an offensive-minded head coach for Caleb. There were concerns about Matt Eberflus at times throughout the 2023 season, and they were completely valid, but if the Bears underperform in 2024, then there is a real possibility they get the Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson or the Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick to be the team's next head coach. As of now, that is my only slight concern for the Bears' future, and even that is a very fixable thing in a single off-season. This is not a normal situation for a rookie quarterback of Caleb Williams' caliber to walk into. Now, I don't think he was as good as Andrew Luck as a prospect, nor does anyone, at least I don't think there is, but Luck's top 3 receivers were a 34-year-old Reggie Wayne, a rookie T.Y. Hilton, and Donnie Avery in 2012, and it's not wrong to say what Caleb has to work with from a weapons standpoint is better than what Andrew had in his rookie year. Sure, Keenan Allen won't be there for forever, but with DJ only being 27, it's not unreasonable to think Caleb, DJ, and Rome won't play together for at least 4 or 5 years. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, and I would be beyond shocked if Caleb doesn't change this, and before the 17th game in most years. If JJ McCarthy pans out and Caleb plays anywhere close to where he is expected to, then this division is going to have Caleb, Jordan Love, and JJ for at least the next 6 or 7 years, and probably longer, along with a damn good Lions team led by Jared Goff. With 7 teams making the playoffs in each conference, I would be surprised if this division doesn't send 3 teams to the playoffs more often than not, because the NFC North is going to be absolutely brutal. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 38% of people watching are subscribed and helps the channel tremendously. Also, please check out the Football Analysis podcast, where there is more content that you'll love, and the link is in the description. Thank you to Manta for sponsoring today's video, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.